Hello, everyone.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome to the White Hatter YouTube news show.
Yeah, kind of. It's going to be a good show.
We-
I want to start with this. Ready? Hold on. Let's get ready to rumble!
So,
Boomer.
the show today is, we got a lot of controversial and debate-worthy topics that we're going to be talking about.
And we're each going to take a side, right?
Probably.
You'll probably, I'll be the contrarian.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right.
No new updates from us.
Even if I agree with you, I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Okay?
No new updates from us this week, but some more
Not
coming.
that that's anything new for you.
Oh, dear. All right. We're actually going to go into an in-depth topic for this show.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Our first subject is the concept and debate around cameras in online classes.
Okay, what started this?
So basically, the objective of this is essentially there's concern in regards to everyone's doing classes online now.
Yes.
Using webcams and bringing video into the private household and domain.
Okay.
What are the limitations? What's appropriate? What's ethical? What's legal? And all that stuff.
All right.
And there's a lot of different perspectives on this subject that we're going to talk about. And to kind of start this off, which is kind of what I kind of thought about, going, oh, this would be a great topic to talk about, is this tweet from a father and a
I'll read it.
And a teacher.
I'll read it because I'm like the boomer. I'm the father. My son's school, MS and HS, I think that stands for middle school and high school, have required kids to leave cameras on for entire class periods during remote learning. I told them they can turn them off as needed, and I will take the heat for that decision. Okay, so just reading that as a boomer, what that tells me is that the school has some kind of a rule in place saying that if we're doing online learning, your camera has to stay on at all times. Yeah. And you're not allowed to turn them off, right?
Yeah, so obviously this individual who is apparently a teacher and obviously a father is against this policy, and they believe that their kids should turn off their camera when they need to.
I agree. I mean, to a degree. What happens if the child has to go up and go to the bathroom? Well, turn off the camera.
Don't bring the camera to the bathroom with you.
Yeah. Or what if something embarrassing is happening in front of them that they have no control over, which could happen, right? So why broadcast?
You're in a private domain.
Yeah, but you are. And if something's being broadcast a little embarrassing, you should have the ability to turn it off so the rest of the class can't see it. Maybe weaponize it and use it against you.
If your sibling is messing with you as you're in an online class.
Oh,
jeez, no.
Oh, okay. I mean, it makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
I think students, student involvement here I think is important as well. Getting, feedback from the kids. But I do think that, a family should have the right, a teen student should have the right that if they want to turn off their camera under certain circumstances, they should be allowed to, but maybe dictating what those circumstances are can be challenging.
Potentially.
Right?
But what about a family who's completely against this? Like, I don't want any camera in my household because I don't want the school having viewpoints into my private house. Okay, what if a parent wants that?
Okay, well then that's your right, but then your kid doesn't get educated.
Well, okay, then
that's a choice. It's a choice, right? If it's a choice to send your kids to school, right? That's a choice. If you decide that you don't want your kids to have their camera on during a teaching session and it is required, right? Let me use the caveat.
Required by the school. We'll talk about legal stuff here in a bit.
Right, required. Like if I'm doing something as a teacher in front of a camera to demonstrate a topic I'm talking about, well then students should be able to see it, and then I should be able to see the student working on that, right?
I don't think we're debating the teacher being broadcast. I think what we're debating is the student broadcasting their household to the teacher or to the school.
Well, you didn't say that.
Okay. Obviously, the teacher whose job it is to whatever their employer says for them to do. The school district is to broadcast yourself to your class.
Yeah.
Not arguing that. What I'm arguing is the students who are subject to the education system.
Okay. So now I'm going to think as a teacher here. Maybe the reason the teacher wants to do that is to get face-to-face time with their kids, because face-to-face time, let's face it, is good from a mental wellness standpoint. The kids are striving to be able to see their friends in class and all that kind of stuff. Maybe another reason might be because the teacher wants to prevent cheating.
We'll talk about that here in a bit as well.
Right, that could be another reason. So, so what do you got?
That's That's
I'm going to take the position, yes.
Oh boy. Do you actually believe that?
No.
Okay.
But I'm going to take the position, yes.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to take the position, yes. So show me what you have.
Well,
hit me with your best shots.
Well,
Pat Benatar, do you know who she is?
no,
Of course you wouldn't.
Not from. Oh dear.
I know.
Well,
The boomer's watching, dude.
So again, I am more on the stance of if you are required to be at home and you're subject to the education system, and there shouldn't be a policy that requires you to have your camera on because you're in a private domain. It's not a job, but even then, employers are being questioned in regards to what's okay and what's not.
But as a teacher, I want to prove the fact that you were watching and listening and doing what you should be doing, so that if you fail the course, you can say, well, I didn't understand. I didn't see what was going on. Well, I got the evidence now to prove you were.
Even if that is a policy, we'll talk about why it's not a good policy with some examples.
All right.
All right. So talk about examples. So obviously this is a topic that a lot of people are debating, and a best source that we're finding to get.
Okay, but what we're debating is not the fact that the teacher should be able to shoot into the classroom so the kids can see them.
Right.
It's should teachers be able to see the students? That's what we're debating.
If it is a requirement and demanded.
All right.
Right.
So I'm gonna take the position, even though I don't believe it. I'm gonna take the position, yes, because in order for me to
100% all the time going to the bathroom, bringing the camera with you.
Okay,
if that's a school policy.
What I said was I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm gonna take the position.
Okay.
Right now, because I did say earlier, like, listen, you need to be reasonable here, right? Like, if the kid needs to go to the can, something embarrassing, you got to turn off the camera, right? But I'm going to take the position of an administrator, not necessarily a teacher, who now says, you know what? In order for us to do our due diligence to ensure that the kids are sitting and watching and learning and doing what they're doing, I need to see them.
Okay.
That's the position.
All right. So let's talk about some perspectives from some youth in terms of
important.
It is important.
It's extremely important.
Now, obviously, what we're going to look at is the contrary.
Yeah,
because a lot.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, and the best source that I've found is just scrolling through TikTok.
TikTok, you're right.
TikTok is a great place to get the perspective of young people in today's world.
Yes, it is.
Obviously, it's skewed because people don't usually post the good things on TikTok.
That's right.
TikTok's usually all about controversy and drama and all that stuff. But there are some interesting situations and circumstances that were brought up in some of these videos. So let's talk about some of them.
All right.
This one.
Are you mad? Only run from Fed. Touch my watch, why you want to get dead? Yo, run up, you might get chef. Yo, run up the right and left. I don't know. When it asks.
So basically, teacher is asking, you can turn the camera on, and the student's like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. I'm not technically savvy. I don't know how to turn my camera. Right? So interesting, right? So you may have a policy of that, but what if the student doesn't have a camera? What if the student doesn't know how to turn it on? And what if a student is playing?
That's a good point. Some students may not have a camera. Not all laptops come with cameras.
Precisely.
Right. So
or they're at the bottom corner and you looking up their nose the entire time.
Oh.
Yeah, there's some laptops that have cameras like right by the keyboard, which is a terrible spot for a camera.
Yeah,
You're looking at someone's nose.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously most devices have cameras nowadays, but there is a potential situation. Let's say a family, lower income, they only have a PC, which doesn't come with a camera because many PCs don't come with a camera. It's usually laptops, right?
You're right.
So there could be situations where cameras are not there, or the students just doesn't know how to turn it on.
Okay,
the camera.
just a note. She had a camera.
They had a camera. And, yeah, obviously they were filming.
Okay, we just took the wind out of her sail. Next.
But again, they could.
It's a point though. The point is, what if the student isn't technologically wise enough to know how to turn on or off a camera,
right.
Or what if the technology doesn't have a camera? Now,
or they're intentionally going, I don't know what's going on. I can't do it. You fix it.
And on the first point, that's why it's so important that parents with students to sit down to learn the technology. We talked about that before. So, okay, next one.
But it's not like the teacher can log in and diagnose the problem for them because it's a private device, private domain.
Yeah, unless the student allowed the teacher use a rat.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
I mean, the workaround here would be our recommendation for schools, which we've recommended many times, and same with businesses, is have school dedicated devices that are provided by the school.
Yes.
Therefore, there's no privacy issues. Everything's separated.
Yep.
But I mean, and you can guarantee the camera on there.
Depending upon some schools and budgets, though, that can be a challenge, right?
True.
Next one.
But if you're requiring a camera, shouldn't you then be able to provide the camera?
Yeah, true.
All right. Next. Okay, this one. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, so in this case, it's the teacher who has not been trained, who knows nothing about technology, and they are trying to get their camera to work. So in this circumstance,
by hitting F4.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Alt F4 is usually the command that closes the current window. So basically, it's a bunch of, in this fictional situation, it's a bunch of students kind of pranking the teacher and then forcing to kind of close.
Cranking or punking.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is another interesting perspective. So it's looking at one, again, students can be mischievous and mess with their teacher, or the teacher, again, what's kind of hidden here is they have no idea how this works.
So if the teacher actually hit F4, what would happen?
Alt F4? Oh, the browser's Zoom meeting or something would just close and just start it up again. So, I mean, in this perspective, what I'm pulling from this is, yeah, kids can be mischievous and prank and punk their teacher, or it could be a teacher who's completely unequipped to do online classes because they don't know how the technology works.
So now my question is, if a student purposely does that during a class, should there be a consequence?
Yeah.
I think there should be. If a student is purposely trying to cause a teacher to shut down a session by hitting Alt F4, right, and it now shuts down that session, should there be a consequence? Yeah, there should be. And what should that consequence be? Well, I think the teacher should immediately bring it to the attention of the parent what happened there. And then the parents can evoke appropriate family consequences to inappropriate behavior, right? So,
but also teachers, learn how tech works.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you're requiring students to use a camera, you as well should be familiar and fluent enough to use the camera.
I agree. But on the flip side of the coin, again, I'm going to take the contrarian approach. If a student is purposely trying to be malicious like that, to get a teacher to shut down a online class, and knowing that the teacher is maybe not as technically savvy as others, then that's inappropriate behavior and there should be a consequence. And that consequence should be immediately notifying the parent and having the parent notify what the child did, and then apply appropriate consequences from there.
Makes sense.
Right?
I guess. I mean, I kind of see these.
And I'll go a step further. I think the school may have if it happens once, give them a warning. If it happens twice, second warning. Third one, you're not getting access because you're abusing the privilege. You know, as a school, I have to supply the training to you, but if you're abusing it, well, then you're now denied from using it. Consequences to actions, right? So.
Okay. Next one.
I love the contrarian position.
Teachers should learn how the tech works anyways.
But, yes, I agree. Teachers need to know how the tech works. But on the flip side of the coin, students also need to be a little patient with teachers, who a lot of them maybe aren't as tech savvy. And taking advantage of that in a malicious way is unacceptable.
Fair enough. This one. Okay, so this is the class.
You didn't say okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer.
All right.
Okay, here's the classic one.
Okay, this is
all in Zoom now because you're quarantined and
most people know this one now.
So what's going on with this one?
I'm gonna give you all a couple.
So what this person's doing
First, we're gonna go to video
settings. So Zoom has a virtual background
turn on
option,
touch up my appearance,
which you can make your background whatever you want because it kind of blurs it out.
Next, we're gonna go take a photo in our camera.
Right?
So we're gonna go to camera app and then take a photo. Make sure you look official. Make sure it looks like you're paying attention. Then you're gonna save that photo. Depending on where you save it from, you're going to go to virtual background. And from virtual background, you're going to find add image. And from add image, you're going to go through and find your photo. I saved it to recents. So I'm going to upload that photo right there. And now it looks like I'm paying attention. I can move out of the screen, and they'll never know.
It is a classic.
This was like the first one that came out.
Don't forget to wash it.
Now can you do it with that? You can put a video clip in there too, so it's a looping video, right?
Yeah. So
because that one's easy. If you're seeing a student whose eyes don't blink, and there's pretty good clue, right?
So yeah, and this was the first kind of life hack that came out like 6 months ago. So basically, to kind of reiterate for individuals watching, you can create a virtual background, and basically you can put whatever picture you want back there, or video. And if you take a picture of yourself and you use that as the background and you push that as the camera's still working, but it can't see you, and you can do what you want in the background. And then people later on got smart enough to go, you know what? If you're just sitting there staring, pretty obvious. But if you make a looping video, so you kind of just looking around, looking attentive, push that video to the camera as a virtual camera, and that's what people see. Good example here. I mean, we have virtual cameras, so we can push to you any image you want, right? And there's free software that does that. So sure, school requires a camera to be on 100% of the time. Great, camera's on. I'm just using a virtual camera that's pushing it to you.
Okay. From a teacher's perspective, one of the ways to defeat both the picture and the video loop every so often say, "Hey, everybody, raise your right hand."
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? Easy way to check if somebody's using a virtual background, right? Hey, everybody in class, raise your right hand, raise your left hand, right? Woo! Clap.
Although, we talked about on a news show a couple of weeks ago about someone who made an AI
Right.
to do Zoom calls.
Yeah, but how many students are going to be able to do that? Let's be honest, right?
Hey, deepfakes are now available to the average
Deepfakes,
person.
they are, but most students don't have that. But you know, for teachers who are concerned about certain students, you know, who are maybe looping or spoofing using a virtual screen, that's one of the easiest ways to do it. Just say, "Hey, Darren, can I just get you to raise your right and left hand for me and clap once?" Easiest way to do it, right? And if they're not doing it, it's a pretty good indicator, let you know it's looping.
True, but at the same time, you could easily pop onto screen and go, "Hey, look."
They could, but you'll see a clear movement there, and a lot of people won't be quick enough to do that, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Let's say that, right? Because some students will do that. They have the virtual thing, and then they're in their bed playing video games or doing stuff like that. So all of a sudden I say, "Hey, everybody, raise your left hand and right hand." And everybody's doing it, and the one isn't. Pretty good indicator, right?
Well, what sparked me to go through these videos and find them, and I couldn't find it because TikTok is terrible for you to finding videos you've already seen before.
Right.
But I saw a video with a student who had a situation where they were required to have a camera on.
Right.
So they're providing situations that could make the camera quality lower. So having your camera facing the sun so it's overexposed and then getting a little Vaseline and putting over the camera, which degrades the quality.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have, I mean, you got students like that doing it in the classroom, right? In the brick and mortar schools where you have a small percentage. And I don't think this is the large percentage of students that are doing this in any ways, right? I think a lot of students want to do the online learning and they're doing and being good about it. And you have a small percentage that aren't, right? And to be quite honest, for the small percentage that aren't, if you get left behind, oh well, that's your problem, not the teachers. Teachers are doing their due diligence and stuff. But again, I mean, one of the ways to defeat looping and that kind of stuff or a virtual screen is just do the quick, hey, raise your right hand, snap your finger, right? And if they're not doing it, pretty good indicator, let you know that they're looping. Or if they're using a still picture, they're frozen like.
Yeah.
Right, next one.
Next one. Okay, interesting perspective. So, school requiring cameras on, but make sure it's neutral background. I'll watch that one again really quick. Okay, so what's happening here is, okay, school has a policy, camera needs to be on, right?
Right.
Make sure the background's neutral. Now,
that can be hard in some places.
In this person's, assuming this person's private domain, nothing's appropriate in the domain for whatever reason. So I guess the only legitimate option is on the floor, right? So I mean, again, interesting perspective in that, again, you're bringing cameras into the private domain, which can be seen by maybe 30 plus other students and a teacher, may be recorded, could be recorded by another student or the teacher or the school. So again, it's the issue of you're bringing it into the private domain, which maybe you have things that are private.
But if you're using Zoom now, you got virtual backgrounds that you can use if you wanted.
Yeah, but it's not perfect. You can blur it out.
No, it's not perfect, but it's better than laying on the ground like that.
But some people may find it annoying. Some teachers may be like, no virtual background.
But you can get virtual backgrounds that are just blank.
Yeah, you could.
Right? Like,
but some may
there's
not
a workaround.
But some may not want that because then again, you're allowing the potential issue of having looping video. If you allow a virtual background or a virtual third-party camera, you could push anything you want to that.
Yeah, but it would be no different than using a green screen is what I mean by a virtual background, right? Like if you've got just a blank virtual background that is, beige or whatever, or it just looks like a bedroom wall with a picture hanging on, because there's all kinds of them out there, but you can still see the student moving around in the virtual background, right? So you could still do the raise your right hand and snap if you wanted to do that. So I think I understand this message, which is sometimes the environment in which we find ourselves in out of necessity may not be conducive to have an appropriate background.
Right.
I agree with that. So, but there's a workaround for that. The workaround is in both Zoom and a lot of the other products that are out there, they're now using virtual backgrounds. Just put a virtual background in there instead. Right?
Yeah. We kind of brought in another, I don't have a video for this, but another thing I've seen is regards to some students who are streamers.
Yeah.
Who have like the best situation. They have full 4K HD cameras and they have multiple camera angles because they're streamers.
Yeah.
the issue, see, with schools, yeah, you can have the rich kids and poor kids, but at least you got, at least there's some kind of commonality in that if you're the rich kid, you may not be able to bring your big, massive setup to school every day, right? So there's also the issue of I'm from a less fortunate family. I have a 420 camera webcam, and my classmates all have 1080p HD cameras because they're all streamers. Yeah. So you also have that issue.
The digital divide is significant, right?
Precisely.
Like I think the last statistic that I saw in the United States is they estimated that 25% of high school students in the United States do not have broadband access, where they can't access even the internet.
No, I don't.
25%, yeah, that came out last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 25%.
Higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, 25% don't have access. So as a result of that, so again, the social divide because of socioeconomics and where you live and all that kind of stuff. Like here in Canada, there was an article that was just done in the Globe and Mail saying how some First Nations communities, the only way that they're able to do any kind of distance learning is via fax and phone, because they have no broadband. They have no internet connection, right? So this is an issue. So now what do you do with them, right? Specifically that population who don't have access, who are now can't go to school because of COVID and all those kind of things that are going on right now. How do we keep them in the loop? And if, and what if they don't have a phone? Now what? Yeah. Now what are we going to do, right? And,
which again brings to like a first issue.
My spaghetti's hanging out of my ear.
Which kind of again brings to like a first issue we talked about in regards to family not wanting a camera in the house at all anyways, right?
Yeah.
So things to consider.
Yeah. Deeper thoughts.
I know. Some interesting deep messages in these simple TikToks. Okay, so in this situation, we'll play it again.
Play that one again.
In this situation, I saw that one already. In this situation, what the person has done is in the privacy settings of their personal private device, they have turned off camera access to the app.
The Microsoft Teams, because that's what they're using.
So the app that's being used by the school or meeting can't even connect to the camera because the system settings have been turned off to allow that.
Right.
Now, this brings up some interesting topic points because let's say it's a family computer, let's pretend, and let's say the family is very privacy-centric, and they perceive allowing those settings on could be a privacy security risk, so they disable it.
Right.
Which is a legitimate concern.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you need antivirus. Maybe people may not have antivirus to protect the computer. So interesting thoughts and perspectives on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's we'll talk more once we finish going where I actually come from. I'm playing the adversary here, for sure.
Because you're a school organization, you're using Zoom, for example. Everyone downloads Zoom. You control the Zoom application. But that application is going on someone's personal private device, which means they control the privacy settings of the device. Again, my recommendation would be every school should be providing a student a dedicated laptop. The school controls everything on.
That's definitely best practice, right?
But real world. But the issue is, if you're bringing a personal private device, for example, if I were to bring, let's say the family's only device is a family leader is a working professional.
Yes.
And their job provides them with a laptop or a computer.
Right.
And the only device in the house is that device provided by the parents' work.
Right.
That work may have certain policies and rules on that laptop that doesn't provide the camera to be accessed.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, there could be external factors that could, obviously in this case, the student's intentionally disabling the access.
Sure.
But that being said, it is their personal private device in their private domain.
For sure. I mean, you bring up, I'll give you that one. You bring up a really good point, right? Like if they're using a computer from a business that is the only family computer because it comes from mom and dad's work and they're allowing you to use it, you're right. The administrators at that workplace could have disabled camera. I mean, Chromebooks are big for that, right? Where you can do all that kind of stuff. So if all of a sudden, the parent brought home a Chromebook, you may not have access to the camera or the mic.
Yeah, or being allowed to download external applications that the school uses.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, good point. Good point. We got another one here.
Interesting times. Okay, this is a good one.
So here our first step is good morning. Mom, what are you doing? I was telling you breakfast is ready. Who are you talking to? Is it your girlfriend? No, I'm at school, remember? What do you mean you're at school? You're in your room. I'm doing my classes online. Oh, is your teacher there? Let me say hello. What? Mom! Hi, Mr. Wilson. How's my son going?
That was a good one. Actually.
That was a good one. So this one's more talking about family leaders and parents in regards to, okay, your kids at home, they're on school, be respectful, right?
We talk about that in the video that is now available on our YouTube channel about setting up your home for online learning at home. And one of the things that we say is, parents, be respectful. Don't helicopter over your child when they're online. Really only come into that space when they're asking you to come in via an invite, right? Because it's very embarrassing, right? So
it's no different than do you barge into your child's classroom during regular school hours outside of COVID going, hey.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I know it's online, it's in the private domain, but again, it's the whole issue of it's in the private domain. So things are different and awkward.
I said I was going to take the contrarian side of things, but on this one, I actually agree with that one. Right?
Okay.
Like I agree with
this
that
one's pretty, I think, universal, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty funny too.
Yeah.
Pretty talented, right? It just goes to show you how talented these kids can get with technology to produce stuff. So,
yeah. You know what? I saw an article, like a thought-provoking article in that what we're seeing today on TikTok will be reviewed in the future by historians to look at the social perspectives of people today.
I think that's true of any social media.
I mean, that's like TikTok, which is usually seen as this absurd, crazy platform that,
It can be.
It can be, but there are even in these crazy videos, there are some really interesting social commentary that's going on here.
I follow TikTok, right? I do, and I found a really cool one where you take a watermelon, right? You cut it in half, and usually you know how you take a knife out and scoop it and get pretty. Well, this person came up with this idea, and we tried it, and it works like a hot damn. You get your watermelon, you cut it in half, right? Half the watermelon, you lay it on the side, and then what you do is you get a piece of dental floss.
Yeah.
And what you do is you take the dental floss, and you just go down like this, and then you scoop the bottom of the dental floss, and then the triangle come out really easy. It's way simpler than using a knife. I learned that from TikTok.
I've seen some cool food life hacks from TikTok as well. It's like, that's kind of cool.
From TikTok, right?
Yeah. Next one.
Okay, this is literally the best app for school.
What's this one?
Okay, so the app is called Socratic. Okay. Download it. It's free on the App Store. And go to any problem you have. I'm in college and it still works for me. Select it, and it's going to give you the exact answer to the problem and also example problems. Hope this helped you guys, and follow for the best life hacks.
Yeah, so, that was going on pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
Where kids were using apps like this in school to cheat.
Yeah, but obviously in school, in the classroom, if you pull out your phone, take a picture of an exam or homework, obviously teacher's going to see you and go, hey.
What if you're wearing glasses that have the little, right?
We're not there yet, but we will be soon enough.
Yeah, we are. We're there yet. Google Glasses?
Oh, those are discontinued.
Are they?
I mean, there's other companies that are reiterating on that. We're not there yet. Although, that being said, the Chinese police apparently have glasses.
This is one of the reasons why in a lot of exams, you're no longer to have any kind of digital technology into the classroom.
But at home, private learning environment.
Yeah. And that may be a reason why the teacher wants to have the camera on, to make sure that the student isn't cheating.
True, but if the camera's here, you just get your phone and go, and do it outside the camera frame.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work with outside the camera frame. As you saw in that one, you have to be pretty straight on.
Yeah, no, the camera up here, right? The camera's up here is looking this way, right?
Right.
You just go underneath and you get outside a frame.
I don't think you'd be
Or if you have a third-party camera that's movable, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
So,
there's an arguments going on now that I've read where do we even need to do testing now that we have Google?
That's true.
But I still think we do. You gotta make sure. It's like if all of a sudden I come in and go, I'm a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I can do an operation on you, right? I don't need any training. I didn't need any kind of exams to do it. I'll just use Google and I'll follow everything that's going on in Google. Trust me, right? Mm-hmm. I still think we need to have testing and stuff. So.
But is that okay? So that's more of a skill-based. So you need to practice your skills, right?
Yes.
Obviously, skill-based. Obviously, but if it's all knowledge based, right? For example, math, accounting, it's all knowledge based, right?
No, that's a skill.
Is it?
It's a skill. A knowledge base would be how many fish are in the ocean. right? That would be a knowledge base. I think doing any kind of a math is a skill-based function, right? 2 + 2 = 4, right? Or 3 × 6 = 20, or 5 × 4. Did you catch that? It was the wrong number.
But
right?
it's
a skill base, right?
Is that skill based or is it just knowledge based?
No, I think it's skill based.
How
right?
is it skill based?
Engineers use it all the time. They got to make sure that the math that they're doing will support why they're making this angle this way and this angle that way.
But it's all formula. You can get more proficient with time and experience.
But it's still a skill, right?
But it's all formula based.
Yeah, but the thing is like a knowledge base is like I say. When was BC Ferries first created? Well, hey Siri, when was boof? But it's not as if I can go, hey Siri, can you please tell me how much pounds that this triangle will be able to take per square inch when I add this brick and mortar to it? That's a skill.
Sure. Let's remove all technology help from any kind of job. Let's do that. Well, and we'll see how the economy functions after that.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic here, right? I mean, prior to the cell phone, they had those sliding protractors. I don't know what they were called, right? When you were doing your mathematical
calculators.
Yeah, and stuff, right? So
right. Well, let's take away the calculator. Any calculator, let's take it away. Yeah. Gone from society.
But if you don't do testing in education, how do you know that the concept was actually taught? Like, there would be no reason. You just sit there and do whatever it is you want. Poof, you're on to the next grade. Unless you test to ensure that the person understands and comprehends the topic, right? It's like reading.
Yeah,
right?
but
you need to test for reading to make sure that the person can read.
I can't remember anything in my first year university biology exam. I don't remember anything from there.
Yeah, I know.
Right? I don't know. Is it relevant to me today? No, I have no relevance to me whatsoever. Yeah, right? That's true. And the human mind only has a certain capacity, right?
And some less than others.
And you're looking at today's businesses that, because of technology, is requiring more and more and more and more from its workforce. Right? If we were to take away technology, businesses would have to go back to how they used to be. One person, one job, and they had a set skill set in that one particular thing.
But then how do you test for progression to make sure that the person understands concepts? Although biology may not have meant anything to you then, maybe you would have been a doctor later on in life. You didn't know. First year university was all about, figuring out where you're going, what you're doing, what's out there being offered. So don't you think that we have to test proficiency somehow in order to progress to the next step? Because the last thing I want is a doctor who doesn't understand biology, right?
Yeah,
but in order to confirm that they understand biology, you need to test for it. Yep. But I would agree with you. I mean, my 2 years of post-secondary at college on criminology, none of that, absolutely none of it, had anything to do with policing when I finally got it. Like, if I had to do it all over again, I would have gone to the School of Human Performance or went and got my psychology degree or something like that, right? Like, it's just...
Well, should testing then only be for your end level career or job, or what you needed, and then there's no testing prior to that?
I mean, that also kind of brings up school and education, right? Like, if you know that you want to be a tradesperson and that's where you want to focus the rest of your life, well, then maybe that's where your education should flow from, right? That's what you want to do. But now the danger is that people change their minds.
True, and it's good to have a whole breadth of.
Yeah, holistic, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, should you be penalized for being subject to exploring different concepts and ideas via testing, and you do something you hate, like for me, math? If you were testing me on math, I'd fail. Yeah. Mathematics, not my strong suit.
No.
Should I be penalized for exploring and trying to learn something new, see if I want to go down that path or not?
Only if you want to go on to the next level, in which that math that you were trying to learn is the base level to go into the next entry.
Right. So my first year university, I did terrible in my first year math.
Right.
Should I be penalized for that, even though that's not necessarily my end career path?
Well, yeah, let me answer that. Because in order for you to do statistical analysis in your master's degree, you needed to have math, right?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Right. Then you needed a base level, right?
But when you're looking at, say, arts degrees, all you use is SPSS and statistics software.
Right. But I'm still saying that, I think testing needs to be at least a base level to ensure concepts to do the job.
Yeah.
Right? So, anyways, some deeper discussions. My brain's starting to hurt.
I think this is the last video.
Oh.
This one is from.
Can teachers require cameras on during
So
class?
this one's from one of the.
Something tells me this is going to be from a lawyer.
This is from one of the more prevalent TikTok lawyers.
Ah!
Because there are TikTok lawyers out there who comment on situations.
And this is U.S.
Can a
based,
teacher
right?
require that a student turn
Oh, I like
on a
your
camera
glasses.
during online class? Does this violate a student's right to privacy? I actually have two answers to this question. I have a teacher answer and I have the lawyer attorney answer.
Just the degree in the background.
My teacher answer is that students should be required to turn on their cameras during Zoom class. It's better for their learning. They're going to get a more valuable learning experience with the camera on. My lawyer answer is yes. Under FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, forcing a student to turn on a camera during a Zoom class does violate their right to privacy because it's an educational record. This camera requirement during online class has not been tested in court yet. I expect it will be this year.
It will
It
be.
so will be this year or next year.
Good luck.
Yeah, it will be.
All
I mean,
right.
it's interesting how COVID has opened up doors that nobody really ever thought about stepping through, but out of necessity, out of an emergency, we needed to do it, which now creates a legal quagmire that I agree with her. I think somebody is going to challenge us at some point in time,
Most definitely.
right? Now, I mean, I was trying to take the contrarian approach to this, right? The opposite, but I'll be very honest with you. It's if a student has a legitimate reason why they want to turn the camera off, they should have the freedom to do that in their home, right? They should have the freedom to do that, right?
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Does the camera need to be on at all times in order to conduct online learning? No, there's many online learning programs out there. Like here in Victoria, we have a whole group that is dedicated to online learning, external from traditional learning, and they don't necessarily have live webcamming back and forth, right? So it's not necessarily needed. In today's world, can it enhance? Sure, it can enhance. I mean, it enhances community because, like it or not, we're physically separating and using social media to say socially connected. So there's a good reason to use a camera so that you can see the other students and the other students can see you and you can interact with them digitally. But again, I believe that if a student decides that, or a parent decides that they're not going to have their camera on, that should be their right. They should be allowed to do that. And they shouldn't be faulted for that. That's my belief.
Right. Okay.
What do you think? Am I right?
Yeah, I agree on that point.
You agree with me?
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's in most cases it's reasonable to have a camera on during certain times.
Yeah,
I
agree.
think that's reasonable in regards to if it's your legal right to or not. I think most privacy laws, I would assume here in Canada as well, don't quote me on that, would fall similar lines in regards to this one. You know, private domain, government, public institution requiring me to have a camera on.
Yeah.
I'm assuming most privacy law would say, you know, if you don't want that.
Yeah. And I also think that, you know, the camera is all about socializing, right?
Yeah.
Being able to socialize with not just your teacher, but the other students, your other classmates as well. So that's some positive. I will say this though, Brandon, that if students are trying to screw with the teacher online by doing some of the stuff that we saw here, there should be a consequence to their action, right? And the first consequence, I think, is notifying parents that the student did this. And if they do it a second time, there is no third time. You just lost your privileges for education for whatever period, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, you know, having one or two students absolutely disrupt the entire online classroom by having a teacher hit Alt F4 because they don't know any better. Although funny to students, although funny to students is very disruptive, right? And so yes, teachers need to bring themselves up to speed. But again, who would ever have thought that what happened, right? That we would be moving to this online learning process. And, you know, teachers needed time during the summer to decompress, right? Because we interviewed a number, as you know, on our YouTube channel, right? Like, holy crow. And so now they're trying to get ready to go back into class, and still a lot of them are still not sure what's going on or how things are going to happen. So stress is on. And, you know, there's a learning curve to learning a variety of these different programs, be it Zoom, Teams, Blue Jeans, whatever it is. So, you know, we need to give teachers a little bit what's the word I'm looking for here? A little bit of space, right? And in fact, when we interviewed the teens actually said, listen, they recognize a lot of these teachers, this stuff is new to them, so they're willing to give them a little extra rope, right, and stuff, right?
However, given our local situation, do you think schools are not prepared yet, knowing September is right around the corner and they haven't done anything yet?
They're not prepared.
Yeah, and
That's what I think.
Yeah,
I mean, they're putting things into motion.
only right now,
Well,
in
that's
many
what
cases.
I mean, right? They're putting things into motion, but I don't think they're fully prepared yet, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, I think they're, I guess depending upon the district, it's going to differ from district to district, but I think some of them are hovering around an 8. Some may be around a 3. I mean, it depends upon district to district. But, I've been following this closely, and it appears, I mean, the big stumbling block right now, I think, is class size, right, with respect to COVID and rooms and, all kinds of stuff. But the districts and the teachers are trying their best to get themselves prepared. Are they fully prepared? No. Is it reasonable to expect that they would? No. Is there going to be bumps and challenges? Absolutely. But if there's one thing that the last school year proved to me was how teachers, the majority of them, were able to adapt, overcome, and improvise to make it work to some degree, right? Like they have that ability. The other thing that I think that this COVID has taught us is how important schools and teachers are to our lives, because they bring structure to lives. And I'm hoping that out of COVID, one of the fiery phoenixes that we'll see raised out of this is more of an appreciation for our teachers and our teachers' aides, the entire school community, including custodians, the administration staff, the bus drivers, right? Everybody's, I'm hoping that we as a society will better understand and give them credit that they're due. Thus endeth my sermon.
Sounds good to me. Do you think the more skilled teachers who are being required to help train their fellow teachers should be receiving financial compensation for that because they bring a skill set that other teachers don't have?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We know a couple, as you know, right?
I've seen a couple online as well who are fresh out of university. They have the skill set to do online because they did online, but they're more tenured fellow staff members.
Right.
Who are struggling or who are against some of this stuff.
Yeah, a lot of school districts I'm now finding are actually identifying people who have a skill set in this area and creating positions within the districts to educate other teachers.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing that, right?
Yeah.
I'm seeing that here in BC. I'm seeing it, in some US states. I'm seeing it across Canada, right?
I've seen some online postings from some newer teachers who are like, I should be given more financial compensation because I provide a skill set that my cohort here don't have. And
I think we got to be careful of that as well, right? Like I do think that skill is important, and although they may bring a skill in, do they have the experience now to take that skill and apply it within a school environment? Because they're just out of school. Maybe they don't have that ability yet, right? So, so interesting questions.
Yeah.
I think most school districts do have tenured teachers who are extremely tech literate.
And some who are not.
Yes, for sure. But I think a lot of them already have tech literate teachers who are doing their part within their community to educate others. And should those teachers be compensated for that? I think they should be. But I do know that districts are now identifying specific positions for teachers like that to be like Pro-D resources for those teachers.
All right. So
we know some of them turn to us for guidance.
That's true. So that is the first part of our news update show. Maybe we'll do a 2-part video on this because now we got to talk about some news and we got some interesting debating topics on the news.